Well, with more on this trade mission to Mexico, we're now joined by the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, Montreal Area MP Rachel Bendayan. Ms. Bendayan, thank you for the time.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Listen, I'm going to get to the Mexico trip in a second, but you know, as you and I are speaking, I'm sure you've heard about the ruling from the Supreme Court regarding Terrebonne. I'm wondering what your reaction is to that first and foremost.
Look, I'm a lawyer by training. In my previous life, I was at Norton Rose Fulbright for 10 years. I respect the Supreme Court decision. I think our institutions are what hold up our democracy. And I'm ready to fight in a by-election in Terrebonne. You'll probably see me hit the road pretty soon.
Okay, so we will be watching that closely. Listen, let's now shift over to the trade mission to Mexico, because we're talking about a very huge delegation here, some 240 organizations, more than 300 delegates when you look at the primary work on it. What are you hoping to accomplish by the end of next week?
It's 370 delegates coming with us. This is incredible. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, trade missions that Canada will ever undertake. I'm going to take my flight tomorrow. What are we hoping for? I'm hoping for deals. I'm going to be very honest. The objective of this trade mission is to translate some of the agreements, in particular the agreement that Prime Minister Carney signed with President Sheinbaum back in September. I was there with him for those discussions. I want to translate that into more exports to Mexico for our Canadian businesses. The benefit of having these agreements is really to give opportunities to our entrepreneurs. And so, as you mentioned, tons of small businesses are going to be joining us. 370 delegates will be having over about 1,500 B2B meetings. Business-to-business meetings are what this trade mission is all about.
So a lot of meetings that they're going to take place there. But, you know, Canada has had a free trade deal with Mexico for decades. You know, NAFTA was signed back in 1992. But in the 3 decades since that time, neither country seems to have been really focused on growing that trade. One figure I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but one figure I saw says that trade between Canada and Mexico only counts for less than 3% of each other's overall trade exports. Are there systemic barriers or prevailing attitudes that you need to be watching out for and trying to overcome with these meetings?
Well, it is our third largest trading partner, Mexico. It represents about $56 billion in trade between our two countries. Is there more to do? Absolutely, which is why we're going. It's why we're bringing so many businesses with us. I think that Mexicans are particularly interested in what we have to offer in terms of technology, particularly in the manufacturing space, but also in the clean tech space. We have enormous potential in agri and agri-food, as well as in the creative sectors. And that's why our heritage minister is joining our trip, and we'll be in Guadalajara with many of our creative industries, while Minister LeBlanc will be in Monterrey with many of our tech businesses. I'll be in Mexico City. It is just it's a huge Canadian delegation as well, as you probably saw, with many from government attending in order to cover as many bases as possible. I think that there is enormous opportunity, and you'll probably see over the course of next week some deals even being signed. So I think there's going to be some real tangible results from this trade mission.
You know, and the Prime Minister, and you mentioned the trip back in September when he was in Mexico meeting with President Sheinbaum, she noted the fact, or said, that a new bilateral deal would not be required to facilitate more trade. But would it be wise to pursue a bilateral deal given the uncertainty around North American trade and the treaty right now?
I mean, I think the strategic partnership that we signed in September sets out a good frame for how we can further trade between our two countries. At this time, both Canada, Mexico, and the United States are obviously involved in the process resulting from, I was going to say TMEC, which is how they call it in Mexico, CUSMA here in Canada. And I think that it's important for us to recall that signing agreements is great. The Prime Minister signed actually 12 different economic and security partnerships over the last 6 months. It's incredible. And now what we want to do is start to translate that into more exports exports for our Canadian companies, and that'll give greater resilience to our Canadian economy overall.
Mm-hmm. We have about a minute here, but I'm wondering if you could leave us with a bit of a picture for Canadians, because I would argue that for the vast majority of Canadians, they see Mexico as a tourist destination, and really mainly that, despite this trade relationship we've had with them for decades. How important is Mexico right now? How does it fit into the greater puzzle that your government's trying to achieve in terms of diversifying our trade beyond the United States?
I think it plays a very large role, in addition, of course, to many other allies, including in Europe and in the Indo-Pacific. Mexico right now has, I believe, almost 100 different Canadian mining companies operating. We have enormous potential to further and deepen in the energy sector, but there are also several other sectors, many of which I mentioned as being key to this trade mission, where we can further deepen our relationship and continue to grow. I think also of Mexican foreign direct investment into Canada. That can certainly increase. That's part of the work that I am undertaking. And as you can see, it's really a full government approach, with the Minister of Agriculture also joining this trade mission, and many other members of our caucus who are going to be there. And we are each taking a different sector, a different piece of the puzzle, in order to drill down. Now is the time that we are going to not only grow our Canadian economy, but make it more resilient in the face of the geopolitical uncertainty that I know is causing a lot of stress for a lot of Canadians.
Rachel Bendayan, thank you for this safe trip to Mexico.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.